Tonight on Y News, police officials reveal the link diagram of the ninja cops who have connections to the so-called drug queen of Manila. Senator Panfilo Lacson reveals that he now knows the identity of the alleged PNP personnel involved in the drug recycling scheme. A PMA superintendent and a commandant of cadets quit over the death of Cadet Darwin Dormitorio. Parts of Metro Manila and Cavite to experience water service interruptions for 10 days. And the Department of Health monitors a 6-year-old boy in Laguna who shows symptoms of polio. Good evening. The National Capital Region Police Office, or NCRPO, reveals the link diagram and the ranks of the ninja cops who have connections to the so-called drug queen of Manila. NCRPO Director Police Major General Guillermo Eleazar also spoke with the chiefs of the Drug Enforcement Unit in Metro Manila today in relation to the alleged recycling of illegal drugs. Lea Ilagan tells us why.
This is the NCRPO's link diagram of ninja cops and their connections to the so-called drug queen of Manila. Based on the diagram, the highest rank of the 7 ninja cops on PDEA's list is Police Chief Master Sergeant, 5 are patrolmen, and 1 is unidentified. NCRPO Director, Police Major General Guillermo Eleazar revealed a brother of the drug queen is among the 5 patrolmen who had already been dismissed from service. The 11 allegedly original ninja cops are also in the diagram. 7 of them were killed by motorcycle riding criminals, including 1 ranked police major. Police Staff Sergeant is the rank of the alleged founder of the group of ninja cops. He has retired from service. A police sergeant and patrolman are tag AWOL. Police Corporal Jolly Aliangan was detained after the NBI raided his house in Sampaloc, Manila and found several kilos of shabu. Eleazar said, aside from the drug queen, who is an incumbent chairwoman in Sampaloc, Manila, the husband of the drug queen, who is the former chairperson in Sampaloc, is one of the ninja cops' contacts. Eleazar adds, the drug queen is now out of the country, but his brother, who is a former police officer, and her husband are still in the Philippines.
Pag natanggal natin yung mga galamay niya, pinakamaganda sana siya maaresto, pero kung matanggal ang galamay, titigil na rin yan. Eh ngayon na hindi ba siya napangalanan, pero lahat ay makakahula kung sino na siya.
Meanwhile, Eleazar talked to the 44 chiefs of the Drug Enforcement Unit of Metro Manila. He warned them all that he will implement a one-strike policy on those who will be involved in illegal drug recycling. Eleazar commanded his men to run after the cops who are included in the drug queen's diagram.
Magtulungan tayo dito. Hanapin to mga lintik na ito kung meron man. Dahil anumang ganda ng trabaho na pinakikita natin, ay ang daling sabihin na involved tayo sa recycling ng shabu. Di ba? Kaya pakita natin yon. Walang sasantuhin among our ranks.
Eleazar also confirmed that 5 of the 22 policemen who are on the PNP's watch list are assigned in Metro Manila. 4 of them are active in service. Of these 4, 3 are assigned in the Quezon City Police District, 1 in the Northern Police District, and 1 has gone AWOL from Manila Police District. 2 are police commissioned officer and 3 are police non-commissioned officers. Lea Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue, Taguig City.
Senator Panfilo Lacson claims he has a new document that will identify the police officers involved in the so-called Agaw BATO case. Meanwhile, the Senate allows the Blue Ribbon Committee to make public names of cops involved in drug recycling. Grace Casen details the report.
Senator Panfilo Lacson is now looking into the Agaw BATO incident that happened in 2014.
Yung mga nakinabang doon sa sinasabing 50 million in exchange for, parang to change the arrested Chinese, and the Agaw BATO of 100 kilograms of shabu.
Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa, however, confirms that PNP Chief Police General Oscar Albayalde was relieved in 2014 as Pampanga Provincial Police Director. The case stemmed from the involvement of some of Albayalde's men 5 years ago in the Agaw Bato scheme. Allegedly, those cops took the illegal drugs confiscated in an operation but released the drug suspects in exchange for 50 million pesos. Some of Albayalde's men were charged but he was cleared.
Pero alam ko lang na natanggal siya sa Pampanga as PD.
What is this drug-related case? Yung mga sa taas?
Sa tao niya. Oh, yeah, drugs yun, drugs.
De La Rosa believes the high official involved in drug recycling is not Albayalde. Meanwhile, with 17-0 votes, the Senate is allowing the Blue Ribbon Committee to publicize the names of the cops allegedly involved in drug recycling divulged during an executive session. Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
The Department of Justice has expressed support to the proposal of some senators to establish 3 additional prison facilities for heinous crime convicts. Aside from that in Luzon, additional prisons will be built in Visayas and Mindanao. According to Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara, they will support any bills that aim to decongest and modernize prison facilities. But their question is the prioritization in Congress, where there are more important sectors that need budget, like the education sector. According to the Secretary, maybe selling part of the properties of the New Bilibid prison may be a game changer and a source of funds for the projects. He admits, however, this should undergo thorough study. Manila advises its customers in several parts of Metro Manila and Cavite to store enough water as they will experience water service interruptions for 10 days beginning Friday. Joanano tells us why.
The Maynilad Water Services Incorporated will implement the second phase of its Putatan Water Treatment Plant 2 project in Muntinlupa City from September 27 to October 7. Maynilad Water Supply Operations Head Ronald Padua explains they need to shut down the water treatment plant to improve their service to their customers. From its current 100 million liters per day production from the Laguna Lake, they will increase it to 150 MLD.
Para po mangyari po kasi yon, kailangan po naming i-shut down po temporarily yung Putatan Plant 2 sa loob ng 10 araw at inaasahan po namin after that ay kaya na po namin i-operate ito at full capacity of 150 MLD.
Around 200,000 Maynilad customers will experience water service interruptions daily for 10 days from Friday, September 27 to Monday, October 7. Residents in Parañaque, Muntinlupa, and Las Piñas cities and several portions of Cavite will experience the water service interruption. The water concessionaire assures to provide 30 water tankers on standby to deliver water to affected areas as needed.
Lumalabas sa loob po ng 10 araw dahil average 9 hours yung supply availability, meaning po meron pong 15 hours sila na interrupted or wala silang tubig every day.
Maynilad also assures the service improvement will not mean additional cost to customers since it is already included in the tariff paid in the previous year. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The Health Department suspects another case of polio. The DOH Calabarzon region is monitoring a 6-year-old boy in Laguna as symptoms of polio show. Sherwin Kulabong reports why.
According to DOH Region 4A Director Eduardo Hanairo, a 6-year-old boy from Parian, Calamba City, Laguna is showing symptoms of the disease caused by the polio virus. The child has difficulty standing up. Fecal samples taken from the body has been brought to the Research Institute for Tropical Medicine or RITM in Muntinlupa City for laboratory tests.
Naglilimp kasi yung patient. Suspected siya. Problema ron, hindi siya nabigyan ng kahit anong polio vaccine. Never siya nabigyan ng anti-polio vaccine. Medyo suspected talaga, delikado siya.
Dr. Hanairo adds that among the symptoms of poliomyelitis are arm and leg stiffness, back and neck pain, recurring diarrhea, fatigue, fever, vomiting, and muscle tenderness and spasms. The polio virus can be transmitted through human feces, so it is important to maintain cleanliness of self and the surroundings.
So napaka-importante ng cleanliness, paghugas ng kamay, pagkatapos ng CR, yung mga bata, kailangan nila naghugas ng kamay, pagkatapos maglaro, at kung maaari nga yung kuko, no, yung mga nakikita mo mga putik sa kuko, maaaring meron ding polio virus yun na pag nakain ng bata, magkakaroon siya.
The World Health Organization and UNICEF, which support the health department's response to the outbreak, say they urge local governments to ensure that vaccination campaigns are planned and implemented effectively. Sherwin Kulubong, UNTV News and Rescue, Calamba, Laguna.
The Zamboanga Peninsula region remains polio-free according to the Department of Health, Region 9. The DOH Regional Director urges parents to have their children vaccinated. But the challenge is that some are not cooperating. Dante Amento tells us why.
The DOH Region 9 clarifies there are no confirmed polio cases in the Zamboanga Peninsula. Out of 15 samples from suspected polio cases they sent to the Research Institute for Tropical Medicine or RITM for examination, 8 tested negative while 7 still have no results.
Yung ginagawa kasi natin, nagkakaroon tayo ng surveillance sa mga kaso na may acute flaccid paralysis. Ibig sabihin, merong sudden onset ng mga paghihina.
Of the 7 suspected polio cases, 4 are from Zamboanga City, 2 in Zamboanga Sibugay and 1 in Zamboanga del Sur. The Regional Health Office called on parents to have their children vaccinated. But the challenge is that some of them are not cooperating because of the effect of the Dingvaxia scare. Even some local officials do not fully cooperate to gather their constituents and raise awareness on the disease. The DOH advises to maintain cleanliness, especially personal hygiene, to avoid contracting polio.
Practice good hand washing all the time. And of course, yung panatilihin na yung tubig na iniinom ay malinis. At ang pagkain na kinakain ay malinis at saka naluto ng maigi siya.
Dante Amento, UNTV News and Rescue, Zamboanga City.
Welcome back to Y News. We pick up to where Angelo Castro III left off. I'm Alex Baltazar, and here are the headlines. President Rodrigo Duterte skips AFP change of command ceremony. A PMA superintendent and a commandant of cadets quit over the death of Cadet Darwin Dormitorio. The Department of National Defense calls to be exempt from ban on loans and deals with countries that support the Iceland resolution. Mayor Isko Moreno Domagoso orders probe on the deadly hotel collapse in Malate, Manila. And Quezon City officials demolish a police precinct built on a sidewalk. Good evening. The new Armed Forces of the Philippines Chief of Staff officially assumes his post today. However, President Rodrigo Duterte opted not to attend the ceremony for the first time. From AFP, here is April Senadoza to tell us why live. Good evening, April.
Good evening, Alex. Lieutenant General Noel Clement is the 52nd AFP Chief of Staff and the 6th under the Duterte administration. Clement replaces retired AFP Chief of Staff General Benjamin Madrigal Jr. He will serve for 4 months until January 5, 2020, when he reaches 56 years old, the mandatory retirement age for military service. In his first speech, Clement says the AFP will remain committed to ending armed insurgency, and that the focus operations will be sustained and surgically conducted on those threatening the peace community. Meanwhile, President Rodrigo Duterte, the guest of honor for the event, skipped the ceremony for the first time. It was Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana who represented the Commander-in-Chief. In a statement, the palace explained the absence of the President on the ceremony. Presidential spokesman and Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Salvador Panelo says a punishing schedule of official and social events the previous day slightly affected the President's body temperature. Panelo adds the President chose to rest so he can be in his usual health condition. That's all for now. Back to you, Alex.
Thank you. A superintendent and a commandant of cadets in the Philippine Military Academy have stepped down from their posts as the institution wraps up its investigation into the suspected hazing death of Cadet 4th Class Darwin Dormitorio. Mirasola Bugadil details this report.
We have to show the Filipino people what command responsibility should be. I did not leave my post in the midst of crisis. I faced the problem squarely, and we have finished the investigation. As I resign my post, it is now up to the proper authority to decide on the finality of the case.
PMA Superintendent Lieutenant General Ronnie Evangelista submitted his resignation letter to outgoing Armed Forces Chief of Staff General Benjamin Madrigal this morning. Commandant of Cadets Brigadier General Bartolome Vicente Bacaro also relinquished his post. The Armed Forces said the resignations of Evangelista and Bacaro have been accepted. Bacaro also mentioned 4 upperclassmen of Dormitorio were dismissed over their involvement in the plebes' death. Cadet 3rd Class Shalimar Imperial and Felix Lumbag, squad mates of Dormitorio, were ordered separated from service due to direct participation. Cadet 1st Class Axel Ray Sanupao, a graduating student, for encouraging maltreatment, and Cadet 2nd Class Nicole Termil, Dormitorio's direct squad leader, for command responsibility. 4 academy officers have also been relieved from their posts since September 20. They are Major Rex Bolo and Captain Jeffrey Batistiana, Dormitorio's Senior Tactical Officer and Tactical Officer respectively. Colonel Cesar Candelaria, Commanding Officer of the PMA Hospital, and Captain Flor Apostol, the physician who had attended to Dormitorio. Meanwhile, Malacanang commended Evangelista's resignation. According to presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo, it is a way to maintain the integrity of the PMA.
I'd like to commend Lieutenant General Ronnie Evangelista for showing his kind of delicadeza by resigning as Superintendent of the Philippine Military Academy. Sana ganyan yung mga public officials. Pag nagkaroon ng isang insidente sa opisina nyo and you feel that it's command responsibility, huwag na kayo maghintay na bigyan ng insinuation na dapat mag-resign ka. Immediately nag-resign siya, including the deputy, I understand.
Mirasol Abgadil, UNTV, News and Rescue.
The country's defense secretary wants all Philippine Military Academy Cadet 4th Class to undergo physical examination. Joan Nano reports why.
Defense Secretary Delphine Lorenzana orders the conduct of physical examination on all PMA freshman cadets. This comes following the death of 20-year-old PMA Cadet 4th Class Darwin Dormitorio who was allegedly tortured during hazing.
Lahat ng mga first year o plebo i-subject nila sa physical examination. All of them, from head to foot. May mga pasad dyan, tanongin kung sinong gumawa para ma-identify natin kung sino talaga yung mga gumagawa niya.
The DND Secretary also confirms 2 PMA cadets who are dormitory's classmates are confined in a hospital after suffering from alleged maltreatment. According to the Armed Forces of the Philippines, the 2 were rushed to the hospital on September 17 and 21.
Meron pang dalawang nasa video na ngayon who are undergoing treatment for some internal injuries dito sa tiyan.
Authorities are still investigating if their injuries have links to the case of Dormitorio. Joanaro, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Former House Majority Leader Ferdinand Castro says the lower house's proposed budget is open for Senate scrutiny. This as Senator Lacson alleges of a 54 billion peso pork barrel for the House of Representatives. Vincent Arboleda will tell us why.
Senator Panfilo Lacson brought to public yesterday an allegation that deputy speakers of the lower house will be receiving 1.5 billion pesos each, while other congressmen will receive 700 million pesos each. According to Senator Lacson, totals to a 54 billion peso pork in the House of Representatives budget for 2020, an allegation which the lower house says is unfounded.
be helpful if the good senator could help us ferret out the truth by revealing us the sources and the details of this information, because as of this period, we do not know where that's coming from, if it has any basis, or if it is founded on any fact.
Former House Majority Leader and current ex-official member of Committee on Rules, Ferdinand Castro, even dared the senator to name his sources to corroborate his claims.
But I can only believe Lacson's statement if he is able to present the congressman who is his source of information.
The congressman continued to reiterate there is no pork in their approved General Appropriations Bill.
We will ask them to scrutinize even the budget of the House of Representatives so that they will know that there is no truth to the accusation or to the disinformation that is being spread, to the erosion of the reputation of the House of Representatives.
Vincent Arboleda, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
Malacanang ensures President Rodrigo Duterte will veto the line budget if indeed there are pork barrel insertions in the proposed 2020 national budget. This is the reaction of the palace to Senator Panfilo Lacson's newest allegations that there are billions of pesos of pork barrel for lawmakers in the 4.1 trillion peso national budget for next year. It can be recalled that Chief Executive has deleted the 90 billion peso pork barrel allocation in the 2019 national budget.
It's always the president who will decide. The president is a lawyer, so if from his legal point of view is unconstitutional relative to this alleged pork, then he will veto that.
Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana calls to exempt the Defense Department from the Office of the President's Foreign Aid ban, according to Malacanang. This as the modernization of the armed forces of the Philippines may be affected. Rosalie Cos tells us why.
The Office of the President of the Philippines directs all department secretaries and heads of agencies, as well as government-owned and controlled corporations, to suspend negotiations for and signing of loan and grant agreements with countries that support the Iceland resolution. Secretary Delfin Lorenzana reveals the possibility of him asking President Rodrigo Duterte to exempt the Defense Department from the directive. In total, 18 countries voted in support of the resolution proposed by Iceland to call on the United Nations to investigate the Duterte administration's anti-drug war. Secretary Lorenzana says the country acquires assets and receives donations and loans from other countries, among which is Australia, one of the Philippines' security partners. The DND chief has earlier said the country has a prospect soft loan from Australia for 6 offshore patrol vessels for the Philippine Navy. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo insists the president is a reasonable one to evaluate the recommendation.
We will wait for the, as I said, evaluation of the Secretary of National Defense, whatever recommendation he will give the president. I'm certain the president will evaluate it.
Meanwhile, the palace believes the chief executive's political decision has no effect on the Philippines' bilateral relations with the 18 countries.
Wala pa naman ako nakikitang adverse effect. Wala namang movement sa parte ng 18 countries who favored. In fact, wala akong narinig na reaction coming from them. Ang nagre-react lang naman yung mga kritiko.
Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
Mayor Isko Moreno Domagoso formally orders an investigation into yesterday's collapse of an old Hotel Sogo building located in Manila City. Meanwhile, President Rodrigo Duterte has directed the concerned national agencies to help in the city governance probe. Harleen Delgado details why.
Manila Mayor Isko Moreno Domagoso signed a memorandum this afternoon ordering an investigation on the collapse of the Sogo Hotel being demolished. The memorandum states that the city engineer shall submit a report within 3 days that will determine the cause of the collapse, which killed 2 construction workers. Some factors to be considered in the probe are the strength of the materials used and whether the building reached the standards.
So it's time
for the government to investigate if there is negligence on the part of SOGO or private contractor or the city government of Manila.
The Bureau of Permits has earlier confirmed that the contractor has a demolition permit and the hotel has the necessary certificates and permits. The local chief executive says the victim who survived the collapse is now in stable condition. The UNTV News and Rescue team tried to interview the victim, but the Philippine General Hospital says he will undergo a surgery. Meanwhile, Malacanang commends the swift action of Mayor Isko on the incident. Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
The Manila City Engineering Office continues to probe the collapse of an old Sogo Hotel building in Malate, Manila. They say the process of demolition is nothing new for the contractor. May Bermudez will tell us why.
On August 2, 2019, the Office of the Building Official in Manila City issued a demolition permit to Golden Breeze Realty Incorporated, which owns the lot on which stood the 6-story hotel building that collapsed yesterday morning. The incident happened on the 47th day of demolition.
Nagpa-check daw sila nung structural stability ng building, medyo mahina na daw. So they decided to demolish na the building.
Demolition is also over, and in 1 or 2 weeks' time, the building will have been completely demolished, according to the City Engineering Office.
Actually, nandun yung aking building inspector. Kumukuha pa rin siya ng mga reports dun sa tao doon sa foreman. So, kasi nung pumunta kami kahapon, nakakollapse na siya yung portion. So, medyo under investigation pa rin siya hanggang ngayon.
The conduct of demolition is nothing new for contractor Fabellion Construction. They have no history of such incident in any of their demolition projects.
Hindi naman siguro. Kasi actually, matagal na daw sila nagde-demolish according to dun sa in-charge nila na engineer na si Engineer Christian Casillan. May experience sila sa pag-demolish. So, aksidente lang.
The UNTV News and Rescue team tried to get the side of Pavilion Construction and the administration of Sogo Hotel, but they refused to grant an interview.
Actually, baka tulungan na namin sila sa pag-demolish kasi yung medyo mga critical areas pa na baka sakaling magka-aksidente pa. So yun ang pinapamadali namin tanggalin.
In the Philippines, demolition processes are done manually, especially if a building or a property to be demolished is adjacent to other structures. In other countries, there are different types of demolition such as controlled explosion or using explosives, using a wrecking ball, and using heavy machinery. May Bermudez, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
President Rodrigo Duterte orders thorough investigation into the collapse of a hotel in Manila City, according to Malacanang. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo says the chief executive has directed concerned authorities to coordinate with the Manila City government, particularly with the Manila City Engineering Office, for the conduct of the probe. The palace also commends Manila Mayor Isko Moreno Dumagoso's immediate action on the deadly hotel collapse that happened yesterday. The Giginto Municipal Veterinary Office sets a 10-day deadline for the culling operations in 14 barangays in Giginto town. But the problem now is lack of trucks to collect the hogs. Nestor Torres will tell us why.
Backyard swine raisers voluntarily allowed Municipal Veterinary Office to take their pigs for culling. The problem now is how to collect all the swines since the Veterinary Office has only one truck to do it.
Hindi naman po pwede na magbalik-balik yung truck. Kung ano lang yung madadaanan na makukuha, yun lang siyempre ang mauna. Ipa-prioritize mo yung nasa area na yun.
The Veterinary Office appeals to the pigs raisers to just bring the animals to the culling area.
Ang target namin ay mga 10 days tapos. Kaya hanggang maaari makapagdagdag pa kami ng mga truck na maghahawt sa ibang barangay.
The pig owners appeal to get compensated for the swines that had already died, aside from those which they will surrender.
Ang alaga kong baboy namatay 17. Nalugi kami ng mga 200,000.
Ngayon naubos siya. Alam to na lang natin ako mga baka. Hindi ko binenta kasi ayokong magbenta ng may sakit.
The Department of Agriculture has decided to utilize its 1 billion peso Quick Response Fund to compensate the backyard racers whose pigs were infected by the African swine fever virus. Agriculture Secretary William Dar has revealed that the country has lost around 15,000 pigs due to ASF. Nestor Torres, UNTV News and Rescue, Giginto, Bulacan.
Not only the pillars, but the entire police community precinct in Barangay Balingasa, Quezon City was demolished today. Meanwhile, the Department of Public Order and Safety or DPOS took down a barangay outpost and business signage in an area in Cubao. Aiko Miguel reports why.
Mayor Joy Belmonte and Quezon City Police District Chief Colonel Ronnie Montejo led the demolition of the QC Police Community Precinct 1 today. The structure was built on the sidewalk. Local government units have only 5 days left before the 60-day period of clearing operations ends. Mayor Belmonte emphasizes no one is exempt when there is a violation such as obstruction of public roads and pathways.
We are clearing pati yung mga bahay na mga mayayaman na nag-encroach, no, maraming nagagalit sa atin, pero trabaho lang naman ang ginagawa natin, and what we want to do is to prove to the people, mayaman, mahirap, police, barangay official, etc. If you go against the law and you violate the law, you are not exempted.
In Illinois Street, Barangay Silangan, Cubao, Quezon City, DPOS dismantled a neglected barangay outpost. The outpost was even used as a latrine and was full of graffiti.
Kung meron po tayong mga project na barangay outpost o kaya barangay control area at naglagay tayo ng building, gamitin po natin yon kasi unang-una, pera ng gobyerno ginamit natin dyan.
DPOS also took down business signage because they were placed near an electric post.
Lalong-lalo na kapag natakpan ng traffic light, natakpan ng pangalan ng street, katulad dalawang signages dito, talagang pinagbabawal yon.
According to Quezon City Mayor Belmonte, they have accomplished 95% of what needs to be cleared, but they will not stop until they make it 100% and sustain the cleanliness around the city. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
And to complete the most significant news for this day, Y News continues. Here are the top stories. Authorities nabbed 4 suspects linked to the Isulan market bombings in a joint enforcement operation in Barangay Kapaya, Bagumbayan, Sultan Kudarat yesterday. The AFP Western Mindanao Command says the apprehended suspects were Hassan Akgun, a Swedish national, Abedin Kamsa, Normia Kamsa, and Norshia Kamsa. Authorities also recovered some firearms and ammunition, ISIS flag, and improvised explosive device or IED components. The suspects were brought to the Sultan Kudarat Police Office for proper documentation and to file appropriate charges. Meanwhile, nights are longer starting September 23, but autumnal equinox occurs in the country. According to the Philippine Atmospheric Geophysical and Astronomical Service Administration or PAGASA, equinoxes are the only times when the solar terminator or the edge between night and day is perpendicular to the equator. The agency added that on an equinox, the length of day and night are nearly equal all over the planet. The occurrence of equinox may be taken to mark the end of summer and the beginning of autumn in the northern hemisphere, while marking the end of winter and the start of spring in the southern hemisphere. And for the news abroad, here's Kath Dumaraos reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand. Kath, good evening.
Good evening, William. Swedish campaigner Greta Thunberg has made a passionate speech to world leaders at the UN, accusing them of failing to act on climate change. This report will tell us why.
At the United Nations Climate Summit, dozens of presidents, prime ministers, and corporate executives sought to highlight their efforts to reduce planet-warming emissions. But the teenage Swedish activist Greta Thunberg wasn't having it.
I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words.
About 60 world leaders are taking part in the one-day meeting organized by UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres.
Someone asked me the other day, doesn't all of this make you despair? My answer was a clear and resounding no. I am hopeful. And I am hopeful because of you. This is not a climate talk summit. We have had enough talk. This is not a climate negotiating summit because we don't negotiate with nature. This is a climate action summit.
German Chancellor Angela Merkel said her country would double its financial commitment to fight global warming. French President Emmanuel Macron said international organizations had pledged to release $500 million in additional aid to protect tropical forests. U.S. President Donald Trump, a climate change skeptic, had not been expected at the meeting, but he was briefly spotted in the audience. Brazil and Saudi Arabia are among the countries staying away. Ahead of the meeting, scientists warned the signs and impacts of global warming were speeding up. The World Meteorological Organization said the amount of carbon dioxide going into the atmosphere between 2015 and 2019 had grown by 20% compared with the previous 5 years. Kat Numaraos, UNTV News and Rescue.
A Haitian senator fired his gun into the air during a protest near the country's parliament on Monday, leaving at least 2 injured as anger spills over in the Caribbean country over fuel and food shortages. Video shows Senator Jean-Marie Ralph Fethier getting out of his vehicle and firing shots in the air after protesters neared his vehicle. According to reports, a journalist and security guard was injured. According to local media, Fethier defended his actions as self-defense from protesters. A dispute between Haiti and a U.S. energy trading firm has led to long blackouts and fuel shortages in the Caribbean nation, feeding anger at President Jovenel Moise's government following the collapse of a supply deal with Venezuela last year. Hundreds of thousands of holiday makers were stranded on Monday by the collapse of the world's oldest travel firm Thomas Cook, sparking the largest peacetime repatriation effort in British history. Jovic Burmas details why.
The world's oldest travel firm collapsed on Monday, stranding more than 500,000 holiday makers around the globe. Distressed British passengers at Turkey's Dalaman airport near the holiday resort of Mugla waited at a departure terminal after 7 flights to several UK destinations were cancelled on Monday.
I think it's just awful. It's just disgraceful, really.
We were originally meant to be in Turkey for 14 days, but obviously everything with Thomas Cook happened and it's now turned to 16 days. And, I just want to go home. I'm very tired. I miss my family.
12 flights were arranged from Dalaman Airport on Monday after the demise of the package tour Pioneer that has brought a heavy human cost and left an estimated 600,000 people stranded worldwide. In Corfu, Greece, hundreds of tourists queued at the airport on Monday waiting to board flights home. One British tourist expressed concern for Thomas Cook staff who have lost their jobs.
Very, very sad that for what's happened for all of Thomas Cook and all the employees, and everyone's doing what they can, but it's really disappointing that the holiday has to end like this.
The British government has pledged to get an estimated 150,000 stranded British holiday makers home in the next 2 weeks, but that is no consolation for many others whose holiday plans lie in ruins. Jovic Burmas, UNTV News and Rescue, London, United Kingdom.
And those are the news from the other parts of the globe. Back to you, William.
Thank you very much. Kat Dumaraos reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand. Russia could face a ban from all major sports events over discrepancies in a lab database, the World Anti-Doping Agency has warned. The country has been given 3 weeks to explain inconsistencies on risks being excluded from the Olympics and World Championships. Russia also faces being barred from hosting major events. A collaboration between German and French researchers is creating a human magnetic resonance imaging or MRI machine with unparalleled potential to illuminate the brain. Nina Armilio has the details.
Researchers in France are developing an MRI scanner using a super magnet that would produce brain imaging of a much higher resolution and could better explain neurological functions and detect illnesses at their onset. The giant magnet, which is being developed through Project ISOLT at the Neurospin facility near Paris, could help better diagnose maladies such as Alzheimer's disease, the team says.
We hope that this magnet would allow us to better understand our brain and how it works, and to study the characteristics of what is special to the human species. Things like music, mathematics, and language.
Magnetic resonance imaging, or MRI, uses strong magnetic fields and radio waves to produce detailed images from inside the body. Project ISOLT's new super magnet measures 5 meters in length and 5 meters in diameter, about as long as a sedan, and weighs 130 metric tons, the weight of a blue whale. It is built by layering 170 double pancake superconductor coils of niobium titanium alloy. A total of 182 kilometers of wire made of the alloy were used for the magnet. The apparatus emits a magnetic field of 11.7 Teslas. This is 230 times stronger than the Earth's. Once in place, the ISOLT could produce images 10 times clearer than those obtained with today's most advanced MRI machine, which is a magnetic field of 7 Teslas. Classic hospital MRI machines emit 1 to 3 Teslas of magnetic field. Project engineers are currently conducting tests on the magnet, but the main part of the development would start in early 2020, when the apparatus would be examined with actual MRI equipment. Nina Armilio, UNTV News and Rescue.
The signs and impacts of global warming are speeding up. The latest science on climate change published ahead of key UN talks in New York says. The data compiled by the World Meteorological Organization says the 5-year period from 2014 to 2019 is the warmest on record. Ferdy Petalio has this report.
Rapid international cooperation is required in order to avoid the irreversible impacts brought about by global warming, according to officials from the World Meteorological Organization, or WMO, as they explained the latest report at press briefing in Geneva on Monday. According to the newly released WMO report entitled The Global Climate in 2015 to 2019, the past 5-year period has been the warmest half-decade on record. It says the average global temperature has increased by 1.1 degrees Celsius since the pre-industrial period, and has risen by 0.2 degrees Celsius compared to the period between 2011 and 2015. The report also shows that sea level rises, long-term and large-scale heat waves, as well as massive forest fires have become even more extreme during the past 5 years. The scientific community has largely come to the realization that the world is now at a dangerous climate tipping point. The report also points out that extreme weather has had an increasingly severe impact on social and economic development and the natural environment. It includes that the international society must conduct fundamental social and economic transitions quickly in areas such as land utilization and energy, so as to avoid possible irreversible impacts brought by global warming.
There is also emerging trends in using renewable energy. I think in China, for instance, they have built a very powerful plan to transit into renewable energy using wind energy, for instance. So I think there is some encouraging signs here. The only problem we have is we have to act very soon and very rapidly, because it's now not a problem of actions, it's a problem of the timing. We need to do that as fast as possible.
The report stresses that a global temperature rise exceeding 1.5 degrees Celsius will be inevitable if no immediate actions are taken to improve intended nationally determined contributions, measures which must be made to combat the crisis. The report was submitted to the UN Climate Action Summit, which opened at United Nations headquarters in New York on Monday.
The intention of the Climate Summit and the UN Secretary General has been very much leading in this regard, is to try to encourage a much more rapid adoption of the measures that are needed to reduce the emissions.
Ferdy Petalio, UNTV News and Rescue.
10 years after Typhoon Ondoy devastated Metro Manila, a family who lived in Marikina City looks back after they survived the perils the tropical storm caused. Mon Hokson tells us why.
September 24, 2009. The Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical Astronomical Services Administration or PAGASA raised public storm warning signal number 1 over Metro Manila and nearby provinces as Typhoon Ondoy prevailed. September 26, 2009, Saturday, Metro Manila experienced record-breaking heavy rains due to Tropical Storm Ketsana, its international name. According to authorities, half a day of rainfall that day was equivalent to a month-long rain. Majority of Metro Manila was submerged in flood water. Vehicles were washed away. Many people got stranded. A lot of lives and properties were lost. The family of Jet Edu has an unforgettable story to tell. They live in Provident Village in Marikina City. During the heavy downpour, Jet temporarily left his family to help his brother salvage some appliances from the flood. But the heavy rain kept on for hours. The flood water quickly rose.
At hindi ko namamalayan na pataas ng tubig. Nung nasa dibdib ko na yung tubig, dito yung part na yon. Doon na kami nakapag-decide na tigil na namin yung pag-akit ng gamit dito. Pagdating nung abot na sa leeg ko yung tubig, ito sumara itong pintuan na ito, sumara. Yung mga bata sa loob, na-trap siya.
Jet and his brother had nowhere to go that time.
So, nandun kami sa taas, hanggang sa makatawid kami dun sa kabilang building.
Jet was worried that his family was left alone in their house. It was early morning when the flood water subsided a few meters. Jet immediately returned to his family.
Nung pag-akyat ko dyan, tumungtong ako dito, lakad ako rito. Hinahanap ko yung pamilya ko at nakita ko dun yung aso ko sa may hagdanan na yon, na nagbiro pa ako na hindi ikaw yung kailangan ko makita, ang gusto ko makita yung pamilya ko.
Jet was grateful when he found out that his family was rescued by someone using this basin.
Ito yung plangganang ginamit nung nagligtas sa pamilya ko. Isa-isa sila linagay dito, itinawid sa kapitbahay. Doon ko na-realize na walang kwenta ang gamit, na mas mahalaga pa rin talagang buhay ng tao.
For Jet, his experience has taught him to be more prepared in times of emergency.
Kung gaano ka kasi kataas ang naging paghahanda mo, ang posibilidad, ganun din kataas yung tsansa ng pagkaligtas mo sa isang sakuna. Kaya dapat ang maging mindset natin, mayroon mang sakuna or walang sakuna na dumarating, ay lagi tayong maghanda.
If there is a typhoon, be prepared in case there is a need to evacuate. Listen to the news. Prepare enough food and clothing. Use your cell phone only in case of emergencies. And always be alert. Watch more of Jet's story of being a survivor on Lifesavers YouTube channel. Mon Hokson, UNTV News and Rescue.
And those are the reasons behind the news this September 24, 2019. On behalf of Alex Baltazar and Angelo Castro III, I am William Theo, and before we close, we will recap with today's significant soundbites. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Good evening.
Kung matagal ang kalamay, titigil na rin yan. Eh ngayon na hindi ba siya napangalanan, pero lahat ay makakahula kung sino na siya.
Yung mga nakinabang doon sa sinasabing 50 million in exchange to change the arrested Chinese and the Agaw BATO of 100 kilograms of shabu.
Nagli-limp kasi yung patient. Suspected siya. Problema ron, hindi siya nabigyan ng kahit anong polio vaccine.
We have to show the Filipino people what command responsibility should be. I did not leave my post in the midst of crisis. I faced the problem squarely and we have finished the investigation.
Lahat ng mga first year of labor i-subject nila sa physical examination. All of them, from head to foot.
How dare you! You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words.